like I said, that whole next year was the deepest, darkest point in my life. I developed a ton of scarring, and so when I would play basketball, if somebody would even touch my face, I would be dripping blood, and it was just horrible. Like, little kids would look at me like I was a monster. All right, guys, what's up? Welcome to the April and Davey podcast. Today, it is just Davey. I'm going solo without April today. I wanted to tell you guys a story, and my hope in telling you this story, it's not to brag about the glory days of high school, but I wanted to hopefully motivate you to set some new goals in your life and set some very specific goals and push yourself outside of your comfort zone and start doing something new. And so let's just get started. This is my high school basketball story, so we're just going to go back. I graduated high school in 1998. Oh my gosh, I feel so old. I actually don't feel old at all, but just that seems like a lot of time that's passed since high school, 1998. That was over 20 years ago. I have had my high school reunion, my 20-year high school reunion. Anyways, okay, let's go back to high school. But to tell this story, we need to jump back to junior high. Junior high, I love basketball. I played it even in elementary school. Basketball was fun in elementary school. When I got to junior high, all my friends were on the basketball team, and I loved it. I felt like I was just as good as my friends. When I was little, we didn't have the money to go to a lot of expensive basketball camps or anything like that, but I did play with my friends every chance I got. That was just our thing that we did. We got together and we played basketball. And so 7th grade rolls along, and basketball tryouts, I don't make the team. Not that big of a deal because it was really just a recreational thing for me at that point. 8th grade rolls along, and basketball tryouts come once again, and I thought I had a real chance this year because, like I said, all my friends that were on the basketball team, we played together all the time. I kept up with them and got cut from the basketball team. Not that detrimental. I wasn't super sad. I was like, okay, whatever. Not that big of a deal. Still wanted to be out there, but didn't make the team. 9th grade year comes along. I maybe could have made the basketball team, but I decided I got the opportunity to be the mascot in 9th grade, and so I did not try out for the basketball team. I decided to be the mascot, which ended up being really like one of the funnest years of school I ever had because I got to go to cheer camp, and I just had a blast. We were the Ligers, and I was lighter than all of the cheerleaders, so they would put me up in all the lifts. Side note, so kind of funny. I wasn't like the strong guy on the cheerleading squad. I was the skinny, small, funny guy. So anyways, 9th grade rolls along, so I cheered at the basketball game, sidelines, but then heading into high school, I was like, okay, I didn't do it in 9th grade, but high school, it became my utter focus, my dream, my goal. I wanted more than anything to play basketball in high school. So tryouts rolls around, and, I actually went to summer camps and played with all the starters of the basketball team from junior high, and I thought I had a pretty good chance once again of making the basketball team, and I wanted it more than anything. Like, I didn't care. School all came naturally to me. I didn't need to study hard to get good grades. I always got good grades. Basketball, this is when I started taking it seriously. I worked so hard at basketball, and tryouts comes along, and I make all the cuts until the very last cut, and I get cut from the basketball team. And I am super sad. I mean, they kept like so many kids on the team, and I wouldn't say it destroyed me, but it really made me sad. But the coach, after cutting me, he said they were thinking about having some practice players on the team. And I was like, yeah, I'm into that. Whatever it takes. I would love to just practice with the team. And we ended up getting jerseys. There was a ton of us on the team, and he kept like 5 or 6 of us. And I loved it. I was ecstatic. It was an absolute dream come true. So sophomore team, we didn't have that great of a team, but I did get to play almost every game. It was like the garbage time at the end of the game where the outcome of the game had already been decided. So there's like a minute left and either team is up by like 20 points where there's no way the outcome of the game will change. But I didn't care. I was wearing the jersey. I was number 11 and I would get out there and that was my time to shine. I cheered everybody on the whole game, but once that point came, like, I'm sure the other team was like, well, what got into this guy? Like, it wasn't, I wasn't messing around. I was out there, crowd was watching, and I always scored. I made some free throws, made points, and I loved it. I was ecstatic. I was happy with that. I was content. So that's my sophomore year. Junior year rolls around, and I went to the basketball camp in the summertime with the team and played with all the starters, kept up, did great, and so junior year tryouts rolls around. First cut happens. I made the cut. I was like, yes, okay, we're looking good. I'm working hard. Tryouts are going good. Second cut comes around. They cut it down to like 18 people, I think, between junior varsity and varsity. And then they cut one more person down to 17 people. And I'm like, oh, crap. What are these extra cuts? Like, they were cutting tons of people before, and then it was like one person, and I started to get nervous. I was like, okay, he just cut one person. What is that? And then sure enough, the next cut comes around, and yep, one single person was cut, and it was me. And it literally destroyed me. Like, this was my absolute everything. I did not care about anything else. It was everything to me. And I remember seeing my name, and, this was 21, 22 years ago, but I remember it so vividly, seeing my name, and just, I had to get out of there. I had a car. I remember just getting in my car and driving. I probably cussed, every cuss word in the book. It was just so horrible. I remember I drove up to the Utah State Capitol and just cried my eyes out. And it was horrible. It was that next upcoming year probably easily was the lowest point of my life. It was so sad. And, looking back, it none of it really mattered. But at that point, it mattered to me. And I remember my mom seeing me so sad. She stormed into the coach's office. And I think the quote is, she said, "You're not even human cutting one more person like that." I was like, oh my gosh. So at that point, I had the choice to either hate the coach, hate the game, quit basketball, never play it again, or set some goals and make the determination to make the team next year. At that point, it was highly unlikely to make the team your senior year. They kind of prep teams sophomore, junior year. They prep them for their varsity year. So at that point, it was highly unlikely to make the team your senior year. But I had a choice to make. And there's a quote that I really like. It's by Jane Smiley. It says, "In my experience, there is only one motivation, and that is desire. No reasons or principle contain it or stand against it." So desire. I had the desire to make the basketball team. So I went home and I printed out this piece of paper. I had a computer, printed out this piece of paper and said, I, Davey Orgill, promise to play varsity basketball in November 1997, the next year. I made myself a promise. I signed the paper and I hung it up by my mirror. And from that moment on, I, even more so than before, I thought about only one thing, was basketball, making the team next year. And there's something about, setting goals that I've always known that if you have a goal you want to accomplish, you have to consider two things. First of all, are you physically capable of accomplishing that goal? And I was like, yeah, I knew that I had what it takes to be on the team. I played with all my friends. They were the starters on the team. I could do what it takes. And second, are you willing to put in the time? Are you willing to do what it takes to accomplish that goal? Are you willing to practice every day? Are you willing to work out? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to put in the time? So those two things. First of all, if you're not physically capable to accomplish something, like right now, me, if I were wanting to become the fastest 100-yard dash, 100-meter dash in the world, like beat Usain Bolt, I am not physically capable of that. I could dedicate the whole rest of my life to it, and it's not physically capable. All things are possible, but it's not something that is possible. But I knew at that point that I was willing to do what it took. So I made my vow. I did everything. And that, like I said, that whole next year was the deepest, darkest point of my life. I developed severe acne where pretty much my whole face was covered in it, of like deep pimples, and I developed a ton of scarring. And so when I would play basketball, if somebody would even touch my face, I would be dripping blood, and it was just horrible. Like little kids would look at me like I was a monster, and it was so sad. And my older sister gave me some comfort where she would get me through it and talk me through it, but my only friend, my only solace that I had was basketball. I practiced every day. I bought strength shoes where I learned to be quicker, jump higher, run faster. I took creatine. I lifted weights. I practiced hours on end, free throws, everything, dribbling skills, whatever it took. So fast forward, it's October, November, 1997. This is the day. This is the time I promised myself I was going to make the team, whatever it took. So tryouts comes. I'm working hard. I'm doing what it takes. Coach is noticing me. I did go to basketball camp this last summer. I was playing with the starters just like all the previous years, but I definitely had that desire to make the team, and I put in probably 10 times the amount of effort this next year to make the basketball team. So tryouts comes along, and first cut comes. I make the cut. I'm like, okay, we're looking good. And I'm so nervous. Like, I wouldn't say I'm really somebody that has anxiety, but when it comes to sports, I get super nervous, like deep knot in my stomach, whether it's running a race, playing a basketball game. And tryouts were probably the absolute worst. It wrecked me. It was so nerve-wracking. Just because, I'd made this promise to myself and I wanted to accomplish it. So second cut comes and I make the cut. And then we're at third cut, and I am so nervous because I'm like, okay, this is how I made it last year. And I remember I was after tryouts, and I was in the gym, and I saw the coach come walking up to me, Coach Parr, and he looks kind of like almost emotional, and he gets real serious with me, and I'm like, oh great, this is it. He's gonna cut me. My worst fear, I'm just like, what is he gonna say? So he walks up to me and says, Orgel, we've decided that we're gonna keep you on the team this year. And inside, I'm just like exploding with joy. And he's like, but there's this ninth grader, Austin Christensen, and he's gonna get a lot more playing time than you, because we're gonna start prepping him for senior year, start building him up. And I was like we were both like almost in tears there. It was like so emotional, and I was just ecstatic. I got my number back, number 11, and so let me tell you about the school year, how it all went down. It was just the greatest day of my life, greatest victory. And so as the year goes, so the year starts out, it's like my sophomore year. Basketball, the whole game happens. I'm sitting on the bench cheering everybody on, and the game's decided, and I get put in. And that was literally my time to shine, and it was so much fun, where I was scoring, working my butt off, just working so hard, and the crowd loved it. As soon as I got into the game, we didn't have that great of a team. We weren't winning every single game, but when I got in, just the crowd ate it up and loved it. So there were kind of two times for me to shine during warm-ups before the refs got there. I was throwing dunks down, just putting on a show for the crowd before the full warm-ups even started. I was warmed up before warm-up started. I was already warmed up. Does that make sense? I was in the locker room getting completely warmed up. So as soon as I entered the gym, I was putting on a show for the crowd. But then suddenly that I had achieved that goal of playing varsity basketball, and that wasn't enough for me. And I think that's something that we all need to remember, that just because when you accomplish a goal, it's time to set a new one. So all of a sudden, this wasn't good enough for me anymore. I wanted more. And I decided I wanted to play more in the games. Like, I loved it. I was appreciative of it. And if that was all I ever got, I was going to love it still. But I kept working hard. And throughout the year, as the year progressed, I started working so hard in practice, diving for balls, doing whatever it took, continuing to weight lift, working on jumping higher, getting faster. And I started playing more and more in practice on, the starting team. And so it came to the point where I was the sixth man off the bench. And then some weird stuff started happening on the team where, like, some of my own team members started almost conspiring against me, where they came up with this secret language where they would go communicate with each other to, try to make me look bad during practice. They started seeing things happening, and these guys are my friends that I grew up with, and they started, I don't know if they were getting jealous of the limelight I was taking, but they were doing things where even in games, I became the sixth man off the bench, it was the first man off the bench, the sixth man. So as soon as the first player, I wouldn't start the games, but as soon as the first player got tired, I was the guy that came in. And that was huge progress. So I was in there when the game still mattered. I was playing the game. And so the year went on. I was playing more and more. I became the sixth man, and just everything was going great. And it came down to, still weird stuff was happening where my friends weren't passing me the ball in the games. And so it came to the point where the only way I was scoring points was to, get plenty of rebounds. And so fast forward to the end of the year, second to last game, it's our last home game against West Jordan. And I'm just having the game of my life, hitting twos, hitting threes, scoring, rebounding, and it was all, my friends weren't passing me the ball. So that was kind of heartbreaking, but I did not care. I was in the game. The game mattered. And we're down by like 1 point with just seconds to go. And I'm on fire. Like, I'm feeling it. And coach runs a play to one of the star players, and he misses it. And I know this is a story. It sounds like Napoleon Dynamite's uncle. If coach had just put me in fourth quarter, we'd taken state, man. But I didn't care. I scored 20 points that game. I got my name in the newspaper. It was amazing. Even though we lost, it was a victory for me because I was living my dream, living my best life, doing the goal that I accomplished to do. I was so happy. I still had friends in the stands. My acne had cleared up. I was so happy. And so last game of the year, okay, we're going to wrap up with this last story. And this last game of the year against Taylorsville, they're our rivals. And there was one player on our team that had transferred from Taylorsville to our team. And so he was a starter, had always been a starter. And he was kind of having a rough game because they were all like chanting traitor, traitor, traitor to him. And so he got taken out. I was sixth man. I got subbed in for him. And the game's going great. I'm hitting twos, hitting threes, rebounding. Everything's going good. It's a really close game. And then something kind of crazy happens. There was a guy, Nick Vrains. I think his brother played for BYU. I don't know where he ended up playing college ball, but he was just super. He was well known, and he was the star of their team. And I remember playing with him in practice games, and him just totally not respecting me as a basketball player, just being super rude. And So he wasn't my favorite person. I'm just going to say that. I didn't hate him or anything, but just he disrespected me. So anyways, there was a fumble. The ball got loose, and he was on the ground scrapping for the ball. And while he was on the ground, he gets wrapped up and has both of his arms around my legs. He's like, and I can't even step. So instinctually, I'm trying to get him off me, and I barely remember doing it, but there is video footage of it happening, but I kicked him in the face. And to get him off me, because I was ready to fall over, and I picked it up, went up and scored a basket. And so the other crowd, the refs didn't see it. They didn't see him getting wrapped up around me. They didn't see me kicking him in the face. But the opposing team, they saw it all, and they were irate. They start chanting these horrible chants against me, like, we're gonna kill you. I don't think they said kill you, but they were just all yelling my name and threatening. And coach took me out and said, or you need to calm down. I was not uncalm. I was so excited because I was in a game that mattered, and the other team knew who I was. They knew my name, and they were all, I just cared that I was a part of the game. And I was like, coach, put me in. I'm fine. And so I get back into the game, and there's a pass. I was guarding Nick Vrains. He was the guy, and I was guarding him. Things were going great. And somebody goes to pass it to him, and I steal the ball up top, and I take it down and do a dunk. And this dunk, like, I put it down, and I ran on the court just waving my arms, just so excited. And that was kind of the turning point in the game, and that ended up being like the highlight of all sports that year at our high school, and just this is the greatest moment of my life. And the crowd, our crowd for the rest of the game is chanting my name in cheers, or go, or it was just, I just couldn't believe it, and it just turned out so great. And why am I getting emotional right now? Like, it was just the greatest thing ever, just to be a part of the game and to work so hard, coming from the practice player on the sophomore team, the guy that never made the team in junior high, to being the star of the team. And that moment, excuse me, that moment, I'll never forget it. And I am, so grateful for the opportunity that I had to play basketball, and that I was able to, that I didn't give up, because I know my life could have gone in an absolute separate direction that day if I had just written off the game, hated it, or, wanted to do something bad to myself or to someone around me. If I chose, I'm so grateful that I chose right that day, that I set goals that put me on that path to get to that point in my life. So, funny ending of the story. The game's over, and the coach lets me keep my jersey. That was the last one my parents gave me. They saved up and bought me a Letterman jacket. Why am I crying? I haven't told this story in a while. We grew up poor, and so that meant a lot. It was the end of the year, and they bought me a Letterman jacket and presented it to me after the game. And, okay, that's not the funny part. The funny part, end of the story, is we're out in the parking lot. We're all going to go eat somewhere, and I'm talking to one of my friends, Jason, and all of a sudden, in the parking lot, we hear somebody turns on their headlights, and they're shining right on us, and they say, "Hey, Orgel, F you." And they floor their car right at me, hit the gas, and we barely jump out of the way. And I guess it turned out that was like somebody that was obsessed with this guy and claimed to be her girlfriend, but she tried to murder me after the game. She tried to run me over. So we dove out of the way, and that was just nuts. So that's my basketball story. And like I said, I wanted to tell you guys this story to brag, but to encourage you all to set some goals in your life. No matter what you're doing, there's always a way you can do it better. There's always a way you can go the extra mile, do the extra thing, do whatever it takes. There's so many amazing things that you can accomplish in your life. And I believe that setting goals is a major part in that. Achievable, attainable, definable goals are going to make your life great. And that's it for the podcast. I was not expecting to get emotional during it, but it was a great part of my life. And I love telling this story. I haven't told it in a long time. But thank you for tuning in, and let me know in the comments or come over to Instagram and let me know if you liked hearing the story or if it motivated you to do something and what it motivated you to do. So thanks for listening to the April and Davey podcast, Just David today, and we'll see you guys next time.